Friends, Kichi here today with a Fishman Presents. And what is that Fishman Presents? And why is my audio quiet? Because I'm taking you step by step, ground up, on some songwriting advice. First step, open up your session, your DAW of choice. If you're a streamer, get your vocal thing set up. That's what I just did. So I've got one track here so far. This is just the vocal track. This is so I can basically narrate. You're probably not in this situation as I am, where you're writing music sometimes on stream to people, but that's what I do. So I make sure the audio is good and make sure the audio is level. That's the first step. But I want to kind of take you through a little bit of everything. I have my guitar run basically directly into the head. The head's an EVH 5153. I've got my Fishman custom pickups. It's all running directly into the head. I've got an ISP decimator sitting there that shoots out into a cab for me in the room that you don't necessarily hear. And the other one goes to a Torpedo Captor X that goes into the system. What is the system? So Torpedo Captor X left and right go into an SSL 12. I'll show you that right now. Go into an SSL 12 over here. Goes into that guy right there. So the Torpedo X goes into here, the left and right of the guitar. I've got my vocals on channel 1, DI channel 2, left and right of the Torpedo into here. This shoots off into my music computer. Music computer is right here. I've got the DAW ready to go. Now, how do I get it to my PC? How am I recording it right now, or how am I making stream hear it? So it goes from the left and right out into this guy right here. This is another digital audio converter, or DAC. The left and right from the SSL 12 go into here. This goes into my incredible PC right there, my Gamers Nexus, my Asus Super Beast. And then this is where the stream would typically watch. So that is how we're getting the signal flow basically to you right now. There weren't really manuals and there weren't really how-to guides on how to do this, so I just had to figure it out. Maybe there's a better way. Maybe I'm doing it incorrectly. Maybe I'm doing it the best way. I have no idea, but it's the way that I'm at it now, so I like it. So when we're in our session, I like to create the tracks. I know yes, you could have a template, and I know a lot of people would advise to have a template. For some reason, I don't like to work to a template. I like to start everything from scratch, which might be more punishment to myself, but I like to do that. Even when I'm scoring games, when I'm scoring music, the works. I do have preset channel strips. So what I'll do here for my input 2, like I said, that's the DI. So I have my DI, select my DI, and left and right, I've got a left and a right set up for the rhythm. Now, a big caveat with writing, writing music in a band. If you're in a band, the absolute best way to write is not this. Best way to write is you and your band in a room together writing your music. Your singer better be singing as well. Everybody better be doing their part. That's the best way to write for rock and for metal and for what we do. Now, sometimes there's a solo writer, so you don't have a band, or sometimes you want to write a song first. You score music. You make music for a hobby. This is more that realm. So like stuff like if I'm scoring a game, I'm scoring a movie, or I'm making some content, or I'm making something separate for a collab or a feature or something, I do it this way. So now we got everything set up. The step I usually forget, save. I have legit forgot to save before. Back your stuff up as well. I have had an entire game project. The hard drive completely get fried, and I never backed it up. And it was only thanks to an awesome moderator I have named Performance. He was able to recover it. Because when it crashed, I was able to drag all of it onto my PC, and then he helped like do something to it. So yeah. So we're gonna call this one Fishman. So I'm creating the new session. Where'd that go? I am not tech savvy. I'm not good at computers. Fishman. So now I have Fishman. Okay, so get your guitar, if you're a guitarist. It doesn't matter what instrument you start on. You could start with a vocal note. You could start with singing something that was an audio recording on your phone. You could start with a drum pattern. You can start with a MIDI keyboard. You could start with the triple play. You could start with a guitar. You can start with anything you like. There is no right or wrong. Also, as far as gear goes, there is no right or wrong. There is no right or wrong with gear. There's no right or wrong with DAW. There's no right or wrong with the guitar. If you like my signature guitar, cool. If you don't like my signature guitar and you like a plastic guitar, you only like $10,000 guitars, whatever it may be, you like a specific DAW that no one else uses, it doesn't matter. It's fine. No matter what anyone tells you, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that it's something you like. And it's something that inspires you. So gear doesn't matter. Platform doesn't matter. Okay, so when I record guitars, I know that this looks like a lot. It looks like 3 channels right here. But what this is the DI. And then the left and right, which are both centered right now from the torpedo. As far as signal chain goes, again, it's my guitar, ISP Decimator 2, EVH5153, torpedo captor. The captor, I did a little bit of EQ with, just a little bit. I'll show you what that looks like. It's just a little bit. Sorry about the stretch resolution. That's just the way it is with the monitor I use. So pulled a little bit of 120 down just a little bit, 800 down a little bit, 2K down a little bit, 6K down a little bit. And then I've got the gate on here as well. The IRs are one of Nolly's IRs that he sent to me. That's pretty awesome. The signal chain in here, this was helped. I mean, one of my awesome Twitch viewer senseis who have taught me how to mix and engineer and master all that stuff, Freezing Cathedral. He's been the one who's taught me how to mix, engineer, record, all of that, basically through Twitch chat, which is amazing. So on L1, I've got a channel EQ and a multipressor that he helped me set. On the other one, we've got a channel EQ, a multipressor again, and an expander. They don't phase out. Why are they both centered? They're centered for now, and what I actually do is once I start multi-tracking, I bring them all to left. And I decide sometimes, and every project might be different, every person will be different to taste. Sometimes I'll mute the 2, sometimes I'll mute the 1 and just have one of them, sometimes I'll have both. And that also gets to a good topic about double tracking or quad tracking. It's what you prefer. We've done half our record, and I mean, not even half. We've done probably 75 or 70% of our records as quad track, and the others as dual track. There are advantages to both. They're both very, very different. It just depends on how tight you are as a player. It doesn't make it better or worse to have 2 or 4. Sometimes I like to have 4. Ascendancy is quad track. That's 2 and 2. That's me playing the same part on the left and the same part on the right. Sometimes in bands as well, you'll say, hey, we've got one rhythm guitar player that sounds more like the band needs to sound on that record. So we'll have one person play on both sides. We've talked about, we're not running right now, we talked about the future for Trivium, having Corey on one side, me on one side, and probably 2 Coreys and 2 of me on left and right, where typically it's always in me, 2 and 2, or 1 and 1. What else is 1 and 1? I think what the Dead Men say is a 1 and 1. Court is 2 and 2. Sin, I think, is 1 and 1. Shogun's 2 and 2. In Waves 2 and 2. Ascendancy 2 and 2. Ember 2 and 2. That kind of thing. So it's really up to taste. Everything's up to taste. It's what you like. You know, some people are going to say, hey, Matt, you shouldn't be mixing on headphones like that. I love mixing these headphones because I know what they sound like. So I actually do write and mix very, very, very far along. And it's not until the final moments to actually switch to studio reference monitor headsets or reference monitor speakers. But these, I know the sound of them because I use them so much. So again, it shows you there's no right or wrong. It's what you like. So let's say you got your tone set up. You have everything set up. And you want to write. Before we go into that, just like I said, when you're in a band, write as a band. For me, for writing, I don't like to write Trivium or Ibaraki during writing time. I don't like to go say, hey, I'm going to write now. It needs to just show up organically. However, let's say you've got a project, something you're doing, something like a game or something like a movie, and you know you want to make something, or you're like, hey, I know I want to make this song that sounds like this. It's important to first find a riff. Right now, I have come into this project, I've hit record with no plan on what the riff's going to be. None. So I'm not going to make the entire song from start to finish, but I want to show you sort of the process. So here's the prep. This is like in cooking world, mise en place. Put in place. Put the things in place. Get the workflow in order first. I have everything set up. Tones are good to go. The only things I haven't figured out the tempo. I haven't figured out the riffs. When I write, I like to start. So let's say I'm doing something that is not guitar. I'll usually write it on piano. And I'll come up with the simplest form of it. Bass notes first, and then melody on top. I'll record those into here, and I'll start layering from there. But hey, we're talking about metal today. It's a completely different topic. So let's come up with a riff then. So I like to start with a riff first. I like to have a riff, and that riff usually snowballs into other things. And if I get stuck on a riff or I get stuck on a part, I stop, and I go somewhere else. So let's make something ascendancy-ish. So I just play around and see what I like, see what comes out. Let's see what comes out. That one's okay. Almost. Okay, so it's kind of a sentence-ish, kind of in wavesy. So let's get a tempo. I would guess that's about 180. Too slow. 205. Yep, 205. So 205. I like to have the metronome pretty loud. So I generally have the metronome annoyingly loud. The other thing I like to do, you don't have to do this, but I find that when I'm making something metal-based, the metronome actually isn't enough. So I have this really jarring, annoying drum that I call tempo. I'll show you what that looks like. This is my tempo drum. It's just this ugly sounding ultra beat thing. I know that's silly. It doesn't have anything to do with the song, but the tempo of it is so locked on with the click that it makes me play better. You might not need it. I don't use this for scoring stuff or softer stuff, but with this guitar, when it's guitar, I like to have it there. Also for guitar, and I don't know if this is correct, but this is the way I do it. In Logic, for example, I like to set the recording delay back to negative 5,000 samples. It's going to require you to slightly drag the piece back in order, but I like to have the most minimal delay possible. I guess that was just at 0 and is fine. So usually when I'm doing something scoring, I get to negative 5,000 so it can be dead on with the click, but we'll go to 0 today just so it lines up easier. I usually keep the IO buffer size really low just to have the lowest amount of delay humanly possible. Yeah. Well, warn him. Anyway, all right, make sure your vocals aren't armed. Also, maybe even have the input off when you're tracking. So let's record that riff. Generally, it takes me a couple, like, I'm kind of clunky when I first start, which is totally fine. But then once I'm in the groove, once I'm on like guitar 2 or guitar 3 out of 4, it's easy. But the first couple times is usually kind of, I jump all around the place. You can give yourself a little buffer in the intro in case you decide to write an intro. Maybe give yourself 8 or 16 bars. But let's record that riff. Yep, there's the clunkiness. And also I'm hearing my vocal track. I didn't turn that off. And I am feeling the latent delay. So I'm going back to the negative 5,000 samples because it just works better. Negative 5,000, disarming the vocals. Cool. And now you'll see what I'm saying about how you need to drag it over a little bit. So you can generally either go visually. Sometimes it works out where it's exactly like a specific auto click tick, whatever that's called. Not in this case. Much better, see? So it's an extra step. Some recording master might have a better thing and say, hey, that pro doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And maybe I don't, because I don't. This is just the way I do things. So this is my method. Now I'm going to do the other track. So before I do the other track, I split the L1, L2 on the opposite side. So now I'm stereo with myself, and let's record it. So okay, so let's try that harmonized. Okay, I kind of lost what I did on the other part. What did I do with that? I'm also peaking a little bit. That's what that little crispy sound is. So I'm just going to turn everything down a little bit. A little bit distortion. Make sure your inputs, a little bit of yellow's fine. No red ever. There was no red. It was just the track itself was too hot. Okay, that should be the harmony. Oops. Mess up the harmony. You either punch yourself in or I usually just redo it. Oops, wrong bass note. So yeah, you can see it's clunky at first, but it's fine. Ah! Professional. And then again, I'm going to get the track lined up. Luckily, I know exactly what to line up to this time. So here's the two. And if you're concerned with leveling now, you can pop on something with like a master strip, so there's limiting. There we go. I'll turn off that hellish thing. Now, I would no way call that a final performance take. Like, I wouldn't call that a final. That is like the way I would normally do this and the way, let's say we're making this track for something. I'd write the whole song as we just did. So we had the verse riff. I'd see what else came up. I'd record those after, finish all the rhythm guitar parts, decide whether or not I want doubles or quads. Once I have that, then bring in bass guitar and drums. Drums, if you don't have a drummer, I use piano roll. I'll use something like we're about to release the Boger and Alex Bent drums. So I'll record to that. I'll mix everything as is. And then if I can have real musicians, it's always better. If I don't, and the budget only allows for digital drums, live everything else, that's how it is. So hypothetically, let's say we're about to write the next set of riffs. That's too butt rock. Come up with what the part needs, and that's really up to your taste. Go, what do I think the part would need? And I think it would need something a little bit groovier since this would be a heavy part. When I program the drums, this one would probably be something like that. Something like that. And you could program that pretty easily. But I would go from... And then you got to go back into the verse from there. You really let the song write itself. Like, these were not pre-planned riffs. I did not have these riffs prepared for you beforehand. I'm just making them as I go. So what I heard from there would likely be, we can either go straight in the chorus or go back in the verse and let that chorus be something you have to pay off to. Then back to... And then the chorus, I would either say, goes to like the A sharp. Maybe that's not chorusy, but you figure it out and you jam with it. And when it comes time for making vocals, I do exactly that. Let's say we got my chorus part. So you have the stuff you use la-las. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 na 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 na. Na 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 na. So you see it just really flows itself. It naturally creates itself, hopefully. And we do just that. So that was an example of the way I'll do something, the way I'll write something. So what this would look like, we'd record every single next part, then the pre-chorus, the chorus, and there's no problem with when you're writing something, copying and pasting these. But again, the final performance, what I would do, let's say we're looking at this is the entire song. This is everything. This is all the guitars, all the bass, all the vocals and everything of this demo style. I would then go back and re-record every single thing, sat down with the classical footstool underneath my foot to make sure it's not perfect, but striving for perfection, knowing perfection's impossible. Go back, redo the vocals. And the way I would stack the vocals, I would have the main track done in like an easier performance sung. And then I would stack all the harmonies beneath that, do the screaming that's not destructive. Then it's time to do the destructive singing, then the destructive screaming. But this might be less destructive these days. Destructive. Well, this has been a sort of a crash course on how I like to approach writing. This isn't the only way to write. This isn't the right way to write. This is the way I like to write some things. Again, with Trivium and Ibaraki, I don't say I'm going to write a Trivium song right now, or I'm going to write an Ibaraki song and I record it in here. I don't do that. Trivium, we're in the room together. We don't even necessarily always have like pre-written stuff. We're just in the room jamming out together, taking as much time as it possibly physically would need. Ibaraki, that record took me 10 years to finish, and I'm normally one that finishes things very quickly. So there's no right or wrong. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was informative. Mixing and mastering, that's a whole nother animal. This is just like, hey, when you're writing, you saw I didn't deal too much with the stuff. I didn't deal too much with the gear. Didn't deal too much with the prep. Just making it mechanically precise enough to get the ideas down. Be creative first, then you polish it after.